He built an empire from nothing, but nothing prepared him for the moment two little girls called him Daddy. Logan Pierce is a tech mogul, CEO, and a man who controls everything except his heart. When a routine business trip ends with two strangers clinging to his legs and calling him Daddy, his world flips in an instant. And when their mother steps out of the shadows, it's Eden, the one who vanished without a trace 5 years ago, taking his heart, and now he knows his children. Eden Monroe has lived her life in hiding, raising her daughters in secret, staying one step ahead of a past that nearly destroyed her. But when fate thrusts Logan back into her life, old sparks ignite and old wounds reopen. He's furious, he's heartbroken, he's protective, and he still makes her pulse race. Thrown into unexpected co-parenting, rekindled chemistry, and the shadows of danger that still chase her, Eden must decide if she can trust the man she once loved to be the father they never thought they'd have. And Logan? He has to choose. Guard his heart or claim the life that was stolen from him. Love isn't always simple, but some families are worth fighting for. Let me know where you're watching from in the comments. I love hearing from you. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more heartfelt romance, one life at a time. The sun was warm, the park alive with the hum of weekend families and children's laughter, and Logan Pierce was just passing through. A conference call buzzed in his earbud, his mind 10 blocks ahead, lost in quarterly forecasts and merger projections. He didn't hear the little footsteps at first. Not until, "Daddy?" The voice was high-pitched, gleeful, unguarded. Logan stopped mid-step, head turning as though the word itself had struck him. A little girl, no more than 5, barreled into his leg, flinging tiny arms around him. Her twin, quieter but just as wide-eyed, stood a few steps behind, clutching a worn stuffed bunny to her chest. He froze. The world around him seemed to blur into background noise. The call disconnected. The sun still shone. Birds chirped, but none of it reached him. "Daddy," the first girl said again, peering up at him with wide hazel eyes that looked achingly familiar. His mouth parted, but no sound came. And then from the sidewalk path came a voice he hadn't heard in 5 years. "Girls, no, come back here." It hit him like a thunderclap. Eden. She was there. Running, toward them. Her hair longer, her frame leaner. The panic in her eyes hit him before recognition did. She skidded to a stop just feet from him, and her breath shallow, eyes fixed on his like she'd seen a ghost, which, to be fair, was exactly how he felt looking at her. Logan. Her voice cracked on his name. She tried to pull the girls back gently, but the first one clung tighter to his leg. "They thought you were," she started, but her voice faltered. "I'm sorry," she finally said, eyes darting around like she expected the sky to fall. Logan still hadn't moved. He looked from the girls, mirror images of each other, to Eden, whose hands trembled as she reached for them. "You disappeared," he said, the words dull and low, pulled from deep inside. 5 years, no goodbye, no word, you were just gone." "I know." Her jaw tightened. "I had to." He looked back down at the girls. They were staring up at him with open adoration, and he was staring into the past, into 2 pairs of eyes he suddenly couldn't look away from. "You had to?" His voice sharpened, lifting. "And these, Eden, are these?" She nodded, just once. He stepped back, not in anger, but because the ground under him felt like it had been ripped away. "They're mine?" Eden's breath caught. "Yes." The word was soft. Final. Logan's heartbeat thundered in his ears. He hadn't prepared for this. Not today, not ever. He looked at the girls again. One had her mother's soft mouth, the other his eyes. "I didn't know how to tell you," Eden whispered. "Try the truth," he bit out. "I was scared, Logan." Her voice broke, and this time the tears came. "You don't know what it was like." "No, I don't," he said coldly, "because you never gave me the chance." The girls sensed the tension. The talkative one, Sophie, he would learn later, pressed her face into his leg again. The other, Chloe, hugged her bunny tighter and stepped closer to her sister. Eden crouched and soothed them gently, brushing a curl from Sophie's forehead. "It's okay, sweethearts. Everything's okay." Logan stood still, caught between fury and awe, betrayal and a strange, sudden pull of protectiveness. "Why now?" he asked. "Why are you back?" "I wasn't planning to be," Eden said quietly. "We're just passing through. But they saw you and ran. I tried to stop them." She looked up at him. "I didn't come here to ask for anything. I never expected you to see them." "They're my daughters," he said, stunned. Of course I'm going to see them. He crouched down slowly, trying not to scare them. Sophie peeked at him again, curiosity shining behind her wariness. What's your name, sweetheart? Sophie, she said shyly, twirling the end of her ponytail. And this is Chloe, Eden offered, helping her sister scoot closer. Logan's heart nearly split in two. He reached out, then hesitated. May I? Both girls nodded. Chloe reached out first, placing her tiny hand in his palm. Warmth flooded his chest. He looked back up at Eden. Her face was a portrait of emotion, regret, hope, fear, all tangled up. I need to talk to you, he said. Alone. She nodded. Okay. The girls followed as they walked to a quiet bench under a tree. Logan kept stealing glances. He couldn't help it. Every movement the twins made, every smile or tilt of the head, it was like seeing his own DNA walking around in miniature. He sat. She sat. The girls chased a butterfly a few feet away. I know I should have told you, Eden began, but I had reasons. Real, terrifying reasons. Someone hurt you? He asked, his tone immediately shifting from angry to protective. Her pause spoke volumes. Yes. That one word cracked something open inside him. His fists clenched. You should have come to me. I couldn't. Back then, I didn't know who I could trust. You were in the middle of your rise at Titan. The company was under surveillance. There were threats. It wasn't just about me anymore. It was about them. Logan stared out at the park. You should have told me, he said again, but softer now. I'm sorry, he exhaled. What happens now, he asked. I don't know, she admitted, but they know who you are now. They've seen you. I won't keep you from them, Logan. I swear, if you want to see them. I do, he said without hesitation. They'll need time. So will I, he replied. Their eyes met, and for a second the silence between them was no longer heavy, just full. The kind of silence that knew something big had changed. Logan stood as Sophie and Chloe came running back, giggling. Sophie grabbed his hand. Can you push us on the swing? She asked. A smile cracked his face, unbidden and warm. Sure, princess. The word slipped out before he could stop it. Eden's breath caught. Chloe laughed softly, tugging her bunny close as she followed. As he led them to the swings, Logan looked back at Eden, her arms crossed, her face unreadable. But her eyes held something dangerously close to hope. Logan sat alone that night in his suite at the Crescent Hotel, the skyline of the city glittering beyond the glass walls, his drink untouched. His laptop screen glowed with unread emails, blinking reminders of a life that just 12 hours ago had been in perfect control. Now, chaos lived in his bloodstream. 2 little girls, 5 years gone, Eden. The names haunted him, looped endlessly, pressing against his chest like a weight he couldn't set down. He closed the laptop with a soft click and leaned back, staring at the ceiling. His mind wasn't on tech forecasts or shareholder expectations anymore. It was on 2 tiny hands and a pair of hazel eyes that looked just like his, Sophie and Chloe, his daughters. The memory of Sophie calling him daddy in that bright, innocent voice felt like a grenade thrown straight into his chest. He hadn't known what to feel. Shock, awe, betrayal, wonder. Now, in the quiet, it all bled together. And Eden. God. Eden. She had vanished 5 years ago like a ghost. No trace. No explanation. Just gone. He remembered waking up one morning to find her side of the bed cold and empty, her apartment stripped bare, her number disconnected. At first, he'd thought something terrible had happened. Then he'd convinced himself she'd chosen to leave. The final straw in a string of lies, his heart told itself. But now he knew the truth, or at least part of it. She hadn't left alone. He buried his face in his hands, fingers raking through his hair. The ache inside him wasn't just emotional, it was physical, raw, like something was breaking apart to make space for something bigger. He had children. He was a father, and he'd missed everything. Their first steps, first birthdays, laughter, bedtime stories, fevers, fights, all of it. Gone. The next morning, Logan stood outside a small coffee shop 2 blocks from the park where his world had exploded. The girls were with Eden at a hotel nearby. She'd texted him the name late last night, followed by a simple message. We can talk tomorrow, if you still want to. If. As if he could pretend they didn't exist. As if he'd ever be able to go back to the life he had before hearing the word daddy come from a stranger's mouth. He spotted her through the window, sitting at a back table, her shoulders squared but tense. A mug rested in her hands. She looked like she hadn't slept. He walked in, every step precise, as if the polished floors might shatter beneath him. When she looked up, their eyes locked, and for a second, neither of them said a word. Then she offered a small, wary nod. "Hi," she said. "Hi," he returned, sliding into the seat across from her. Silence wrapped around them like a fog. "You didn't run," he said. "I promised I wouldn't." Another long beat passed. "They look like you," Logan said, voice low. "I know," she whispered. "How could you do that to me?" Her eyes filled, but she didn't blink them away. "Because I was trying to protect them." "From what?" She hesitated. Her fingers tightened around the mug. "There were threats, Logan, not just from the outside, from people we both knew. I didn't know who to trust. I would have protected you. You would have investigated. You would have gone after them. That's who you are. And I couldn't risk the girls being dragged into it. I had just found out I was pregnant. 2 lives suddenly depending on me. I was terrified. So you disappeared. I had help." She paused. "A friend set me up with a new identity. We moved between cities. I homeschooled, kept our lives small, untraceable." Logan leaned forward. "You didn't think I deserved to know? I thought you deserved to be safe. I didn't want you targeted too." A sharp sound left his throat, half laugh, half growl. "You thought I wouldn't choose them? You thought I'd pick Titan Tech over my daughters?" "No," she said, softer now. "I thought you'd choose them so completely that you'd burn the world down for them, and I was afraid the world might burn you back." The quiet that followed was heavier than before. Logan stared at her like he was seeing a stranger and someone he'd once loved, all wrapped into one impossible woman. "They're incredible," he said finally. "They are. They don't know who I am, do they?" "Not really." Eden shook her head. "I told them about their father, that he was strong, smart, brave, but I didn't give them a name. I wasn't sure if—" She trailed off. "If what?" he asked. "If you'd want to be found." He inhaled sharply, the implication slicing through his ribs. "I've thought about you every damn day," he said. Eden blinked fast. "Logan, I thought I'd done something wrong, that I wasn't enough, that I lost you because I couldn't give you what you needed." Her breath hitched. "You were everything I needed. That's why I had to protect you." He shook his head. "I didn't need protecting. I needed the truth." A long silence settled between them, filled with 1,000 unsaid things. Finally, Eden looked down. "I'm not here to make excuses. I'm here because they deserve to know you. I don't want to run anymore." His gaze softened. "Then don't." She looked up. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying they're not strangers anymore. I want to know them. I want to be in their lives, and I want them in mine." Eden studied him for a long moment. "What about us?" Logan looked away. The question crackled with electricity. "I don't know yet," he said. "But we have to start somewhere." She nodded, biting her lip. "There's a house, empty, on the outskirts. Good schools, quiet neighborhood. You could stay there, rent-free. It's yours if you want it, for the girls." "Logan, I'm not asking for anything. Just let me help. Let me give them a real home." Tears welled in her eyes, unfallen but real. "Maybe," she whispered. "Maybe that would be best. For them." He reached for her hand, hesitated, then placed his over hers gently. "They're not the only ones who need a home, Eden." She didn't pull away, and for the first time in 5 years, the weight on her chest eased just enough to let hope back in. The drive was silent. Eden stared out the window of Logan's sleek black SUV as the city blurred past, steel and glass giving way to tree-lined streets and quiet sidewalks. The girls sat in the back, drowsy from the park, their matching pink jackets streaked with playground dust. Sophie leaned her head on Chloe's shoulder, and Chloe cradled her worn bunny like a lifeline. Logan kept his eyes on the road, but his thoughts weren't with the traffic. They were with the 2 little girls in his back seat, and the woman beside him who once disappeared like smoke. Everything inside him was screaming to slow down, to question, to demand more answers. But instinct, that sharp business-honed gut of his, told him to do something else entirely. Build trust first. Start here. Start small. They turned into a quiet suburb tucked behind a wooded ridge, far enough from downtown to feel like another world. The street was wide and shaded. The houses were stately but modest compared to Logan's usual taste. He'd bought this one years ago, thinking it might be an investment. Instead, it had remained empty, unused, until now. "This is it," he said, easing the car into the driveway. 4 bedrooms, backyard, security system. It's been cleaned and stocked. You'd be the first to live in it. Eden looked at the house like it was a foreign language she didn't quite understand. Comfortable, safe, still, all things she hadn't known in years. "You're serious?" she asked, voice low. Logan turned off the engine. "I don't offer things I don't mean. But why?" He glanced back at the girls, now half asleep in their booster seats. "Because they're mine," he said. "And you've been carrying everything alone. Let me carry something too." Her hands were folded in her lap, fingers twisting. "I don't want to depend on you." "I'm not asking you to depend," he said gently. "I'm asking you to accept a chance at peace. For them, for you, for all of us." She didn't speak for a long moment. Then, "How long?" "As long as you want." She gave him a sharp look. "I mean it," Logan added. "Temporarily, until you find your footing. Or longer. That's up to you. But you won't pay rent, and you won't owe me anything." Eden's lips parted, ready to protest. Then she looked at the girls. Chloe stirred, blinking sleepy eyes. Sophie yawned and reached toward Logan's seat, her tiny fingers grazing the back of his arm. The decision was made in that moment. Not for herself, but for them. "Okay," Eden whispered. Maybe it's what they need." Logan gave a quiet nod and got out. He opened the back door, unbuckled Chloe with practiced caution, then Sophie. The girls blinked up at him like he was still part fairy tale, part stranger. "This your house?" Sophie asked. He chuckled softly. "No, sweetheart, it's yours." Eden's breath hitched. They entered the house together. Logan first, the girls clinging to his hands, Eden a step behind, cautious but watching him like she didn't quite recognize the man he'd become. The front door opened into a wide foyer with warm wood floors and soft cream walls. Light filled through high windows. A faint scent of fresh paint lingered, but everything felt clean, new, alive. Sophie and Chloe darted toward the staircase, giggling as they explored. Eden's hand drifted across the entry table like she was touching a dream. "The kitchen's fully stocked," Logan said, walking through. "Bedrooms upstairs. The primary has a king bed and blackout curtains. Security systems remote enabled. I'll have Ela set up access for you." She turned to face him. "Why are you doing this, Logan? Really?" He met her eyes. There was no edge to his tone, no rehearsed script. "Because I lost 5 years," he said quietly. "And this is the first thing I can give back." Eden's throat worked as she tried to swallow the emotion building inside her. She wasn't used to this version of him, calm, centered, unguarded. But underneath it all, the same core still burned bright. Protective, purposeful, real. The girls came running in again, excitement lighting up their faces. "Can we sleep here tonight?" Sophie asked, bouncing on her toes. Chloe nodded, her bunny clutched tightly. "Is this our real house now?" Eden crouched in front of them, brushing a curl behind Chloe's ear. "It can be," she said softly, "if you want." The girls nodded in unison, and Logan felt something shift in his chest. Later, after the girls had picked rooms and devoured the takeout Eden ordered, one liking noodles, the other grilled cheese, Logan lingered by the front door. He wasn't sure if he should leave or stay or hover awkwardly on the porch. Eden walked him out, arms folded over her chest against the dusk air. "They like you," she said. "They're incredible," he replied, "and I barely know them." "You will." He looked at her, really looked. The tired lines under her eyes, the worry still woven into her movements, the strength she carried, quiet but unshakable. "Can I come by tomorrow?" he asked. "Morning's best. They're calmest then." He smiled. "Good to know." She hesitated. "Logan?" He stopped halfway down the porch step, turned. "Thank you," she said. "Don't thank me yet. I mean it." He held her gaze for a breath longer than necessary, then nodded and left, the porch light casting a warm glow behind him. Inside, Eden watched from the window as his car disappeared down the street. Then she turned back to the house. Her house. For now. The girls were already in pajamas, dancing around their new room, and for the first time in a very long time, Eden exhaled fully. Not because everything was okay, but because, for once, it wasn't completely falling apart. Eden stood in the doorway of the twins' bedroom, arms crossed loosely as she watched them sleep. Sophie had one leg kicked out from under her blanket, her hair a tangle across her pillow. Chloe had curled herself around her stuffed bunny, thumb tucked under her cheek. The house was quiet. Still. Too still. The kind of stillness that made room for thoughts she'd tried to outrun for 5 years. She padded barefoot down the hallway, through the soft amber light from the sconces Logan had insisted on installing during the home's remodel, Warmer light's better for the mind, she remembered him saying. Even then, he'd paid attention to small things. She found herself in the kitchen, absent-mindedly boiling water for tea she wouldn't drink. The knock on the door came softly, not rushed, not loud, just enough to pull her back to the present. She opened it. Logan stood there, hands in his coat pockets, a wariness in his eyes she hadn't seen before. Not from stress, not from work, from something deeper. "I was driving," he said quietly, "and I ended up here." Eden looked at him for a long second, then stepped back. "Come in." He moved slowly, as if unsure whether this was welcome or simply tolerated. The silence stretched between them as she returned to the stove. "I couldn't sleep," she said by way of explanation. "Me either." He sat at the edge of the breakfast bar, leaning forward, elbows on his knees. His voice was lower now, stripped of boardroom precision. "Every time I close my eyes, I see them, and I can't decide if I'm filled with joy or grief." Eden looked down. "Both, probably." "I missed everything," he whispered. She turned, arms folded across her chest. "You think I didn't?" His eyes flicked up, surprised. "You think I didn't cry every night I had to teach them how to tie their shoes alone? That I didn't wonder what it would have been like to see your face when they took their first steps? Logan, I didn't just take them from you. I lost you too." He stood, pacing slowly, hands flexing at his sides. "Why didn't you trust me?" he asked, not harshly this time, just quietly. She hesitated. Then she crossed to the table and sat down, motioning for him to do the same. And for the first time, she let the truth start to come out. "There was a man," she began, voice barely above a whisper. "A former colleague. He got caught stealing code, proprietary code I was working on for a client." Logan's brows knit. "The defense contract?" She nodded. "After he was fired, things got ugly. There were threats, then emails that I couldn't trace. One night I came home and found a USB drive on my kitchen counter. No break-in, no fingerprints, just there. And you didn't come to me? I was pregnant. I didn't even know yet. I just knew that I was being watched, and the closer I was to you, the more vulnerable I felt. You were about to go public with Titan Tech. I didn't want to be a liability." Logan exhaled sharply. "You were never a liability. I didn't know that then. I only knew I had to disappear before things got worse." He looked away, jaw tight. "I kept waiting for the panic to subside," she continued. "For the danger to fade. It didn't. And then I was too far gone, too many lies stacked up. Too many people helping me stay invisible." She swallowed. I hated it, Logan. Every time I heard them laugh, it killed me that you didn't hear it too." He leaned forward, eyes locked on hers. "You don't get to carry that guilt alone." Eden blinked, startled by the tenderness in his voice. "I should have fought harder," he said. "I should have trusted my instincts when you disappeared, but I was angry. I thought you left me, thought you used me, then walked." Her eyes closed for a beat. "That's what I wanted you to think. It was easier to make you hate me than to let you in and risk everything." A long silence stretched between them, charged but fragile. "They deserve better," he said finally. "They do. So do we." Eden looked down, then slowly reached for the mug of tea she had forgotten about. She took a sip, wincing slightly at the bitterness. "I don't know what this is between us anymore," she said. Logan's voice dropped, steady and deliberate. "It's not the past." She met his gaze. "But it's not the future yet, either." "No," he agreed, "but it's something." They sat like that for a long moment. Neither of them tried to define it. Neither of them had the energy to pretend they could. The past still lingered like smoke in the walls, but so did something else. Possibility. Eventually, Eden stood. "You should get some rest." He nodded, though he didn't move right away. He looked around the house, the girls' toys scattered on the floor, a crayon drawing on the fridge. "I don't want to miss anything else," he said softly. "Then don't," she replied. He turned to go, then paused at the door. "Tomorrow morning," he said, "can I make them breakfast?" A smile tugged at the edge of her mouth. "If you know how to flip pancakes and stop a syrup fight at the same time, be my guest." He smiled back, just a little, the first one she'd seen in years that reached his eyes. And then he was gone, the door closing behind him with a soft click. Eden leaned against the wood, her eyes drifting shut. There were still questions, still danger, still 1,000 things unresolved. But tonight, for the first time in a long time, the truth didn't feel like something to fear. It felt like the beginning of something real. The scent of maple syrup hung in the air. Morning sunlight spilled through the kitchen windows, casting golden stripes across the floor. Logan stood at the stove, sleeves rolled up, flipping pancakes with a concentration he typically reserved for boardroom presentations. Batter sizzled as he poured another perfect circle onto the pan. Behind him, chaos bloomed in twin form. "I want the first pancake," Sophie declared from her perch at the breakfast bar. "No fair," Chloe countered. "You got it yesterday." "Did not." "Did too." "Girls," Eden said, stepping in with a calm voice and a raised brow, "if you argue, Logan gets the first pancake." Both girls froze mid-squabble, turning toward him like he was Santa Claus holding the last present. He looked over his shoulder, arching an eyebrow. "I mean, if you insist?" A giggle erupted from both of them. The tension dissolved as quickly as it had sparked. Eden leaned against the counter, watching the scene unfold. She hadn't expected this. Not the smooth rhythm of it, not the way Logan moved in sync with her and the girls, as if he'd always been part of the routine. She noticed the subtle things, the way he asked the girls what toppings they wanted, banana slices or blueberries, how he used 2 spatulas instead of 1 so he could get the perfect flip, the way his voice dipped just enough to soothe Chloe when she got quiet, the way he let Sophie chatter without interruption. It wasn't perfect, but it was intentional. And that made all the difference. "Breakfast is served," Logan announced, sliding pancakes onto 3 plates, with syrup negotiations to follow. They sat at the breakfast bar, Eden between the girls, Logan at the end. For a moment, it felt like a real family morning. One of those simple scenes you don't realize is sacred until you've lived without it. Chloe pushed a blueberry into the middle of her pancake, watching it disappear into the fluff. "These are better than Mama's." Eden feigned offense. "Excuse me?" Chloe looked at her solemnly. "Yours are too healthy." Logan laughed. "I'll take that as high praise." "Can you make them tomorrow too?" Sophie asked, her mouth half full. "I've got meetings, but I'll be back in time for dinner." "Deal?" Both girls nodded. "Maybe grilled cheese?" Sophie added, hopeful. "Maybe," Logan said, shooting a glance at Eden, "if your mom approves." Eden's eyes twinkled. "Only if you clean up the kitchen." Sophie whispered loudly to Chloe, "He's not like the daddies in the movies." "What kind of daddies are in the movies?" Logan asked, amused. Chloe shrugged. "Mostly mean, or they don't know how to make pancakes." "Well, I think I'm doing all right so far," he said, his voice warm but a little unsteady around the edges. He wasn't used to this. Not just the parenting, but the way it made him feel. Disarmed, anchored, vulnerable in ways he hadn't allowed himself to be in years. And Eden noticed. Later that afternoon, while the girls played in the living room, building forts out of pillows and giggling over a made-up game involving unicorns and glitter traps, Eden handed Logan a mug of coffee on the back porch. "Thanks," he said, accepting it with a small nod. They stood in silence for a moment, both watching the trees sway gently at the edge of the property. The wind rustled through the leaves like a lullaby. "I didn't think it'd feel this normal," Eden admitted. "Normal's new for me," Logan replied, "but I like it." She looked down at her hands. "They're opening up to you fast." "I noticed," he said. "I wasn't sure they would." "They've never had anyone else," Eden said, voice soft. "I've always been enough, until now." He turned toward her. "You are enough, Eden. You always were." Her breath caught slightly. The compliment wasn't romantic. It wasn't even dramatic. But it was real, and in its quiet truth, it pierced deeper than any grand gesture could. "I didn't know how to do this," she said, voice faltering. "Bring you back into their lives, into mine." Logan's reply was gentle. "We're all learning." She gave him a long look, then nodded. "I'll pick them up from the daycare orientation tomorrow," he added. "I had Marcus shift some meetings. You sure?" "I don't want to miss anything." The conviction in his voice left no room for argument. That evening, the girls fell asleep curled up together in a beanbag chair in front of the TV, arms tangled, a bowl of popcorn forgotten between them. Eden reached to lift Chloe first, but Logan stopped her with a touch to the elbow. "I got her," he said softly. She watched him lift their daughter with reverence, not just care. His face, usually composed, confident, immovable, was open, a little raw. He cradled Chloe like he'd been doing it his whole life. Eden followed with Sophie, as whispering her name, brushing hair from her forehead as she carried her upstairs. They laid them in bed, tucked them in, then stood for a moment in the doorway. side by side, looking in. "They're everything," Logan whispered. Eden nodded, unable to speak. And as they turned off the light and stepped back into the hallway, something unsaid passed between them. No more pretending they were strangers. No more denying that something, family, future, or maybe just fragile hope, was building in the space between them. The sunlight had barely crested the horizon when Eden sat bolt upright in bed, heart thudding. The silence was too sharp. She slipped from beneath the covers, her bare feet ghosting over the hardwood as she moved quickly down the hall to the girl's room. She cracked the door open, still breathing, still here. Sophie and Chloe lay tangled together in sleep, their small chests rising and falling rhythmically. One of Chloe's socks had come halfway off. Sophie's stuffed unicorn had migrated under the bed. Everything was fine, but her breath still wouldn't steady. She padded into the kitchen, her motions automatic. Fill the kettle, flick on the stove, check the curtains. She didn't open them. Not yet. Too exposed. The house was beautiful, quiet, and according to Logan, secure. But her instincts didn't care about security systems. Her instincts remembered late nights pacing the floor with a newborn in each arm, afraid the smallest noise meant someone had found them. Someone from the past. Someone like Calder. Her fingers gripped the edge of the counter. A knock startled her. She jumped, the mug in her hand slipping and clattering to the counter. Not broken. Just loud. She froze. Then the door opened. "Hey, it's just me," Logan called gently, already stepping inside with a tray in hand. "Didn't mean to scare you." He was holding coffee in 2 paper bags that smelled like warm croissants and cinnamon. But Eden's hand was still pressed to her heart. "You okay?" he asked, his voice dropping as he took her in. Barefoot, tense, wide-eyed. She forced a smile that didn't quite hold. "Old habits." He stepped closer, setting the tray down. "You still feel like you have to be on guard." She didn't answer right away. Then, "I do." "Eden," he said, voice gentle but edged with steel. "Whatever you were running from, it's not going to touch them now. Or you. You don't know that. Then tell me." She turned away, busying herself with the cups. "It's complicated." He stepped closer. "So simplify it. I want to help, but I can't if I'm in the dark." She looked at him, finally, her eyes heavy with exhaustion and fear that no amount of sleep could erase. "There was a man," she said quietly. "He knew what I was working on. He knew where I lived. After I left, I tried to convince myself it was over, but I've never been able to fully relax. I never knew if he'd find us again." "Has he?" Logan's voice tightened. "No," she admitted, "but that doesn't mean he's not watching or waiting." Logan clenched his jaw. "Why haven't you told me this before?" "Because I didn't want you to overreact." He exhaled slowly, struggling to temper the fire rising inside him. "I'm not going to overreact," he said carefully, "but I am going to protect what's mine." Her eyes flickered. "We're not yours, Logan." "Yes, you are," he said, "not in the way you're afraid of, but in the way that matters. The girls are mine. And you." He paused. "You're the mother of my children. I won't stand by if there's even the suggestion of a threat." She looked away, unsure of how to hold the sudden heat of his conviction. "I'm working with a security firm," he continued. "We'll start quiet, no uniforms, just off-site monitoring. Cameras at the property, a car that follows discreetly when needed." She stiffened. "Eden," he said, "they won't even know they're there, but you'll sleep better, and I'll breathe easier." "I'm not used to someone stepping in," she admitted. "Well, get used to it," he said softly, "because I'm not going anywhere." A pause stretched between them. "I want them to be safe," she whispered. "I know," he said, "and I want you to feel safe." The words landed like a soft hand on her back, unexpected and bracing. She nodded, barely. "Okay," she said, "start with the cameras, quiet ones, nothing obvious." Logan's expression eased, but only slightly. "I already did," he admitted. "Yesterday." She blinked. "You didn't ask?" "I didn't think I needed permission to protect my family." The word hit her hard. Family. She didn't challenge it, because he wasn't wrong. Later that morning, Logan sat on the edge of the sandbox at the park, watching Sophie bury a plastic pony while Chloe insisted on building a fortress to protect it. Their laughter rang out across the grass, a warm, wild melody that made something in his chest crack open. He glanced at Eden, sitting nearby with a thermos in hand. Her gaze wasn't on him, though. It was on the other end of the park, where a man stood near the swings, checking his phone too often, shifting his weight like he was waiting for someone. Logan followed her line of sight, instincts kicking in. She caught him watching. I don't recognize him. I do, he said. One of the security team. They're blending in. Relief loosened her shoulders a little. Logan came to sit beside her. Not too close. Just enough. They're okay, he said, nodding toward the girls. They're happy. For now, Eden said. Logan's voice lowered. I want for now to turn into always. She turned to him, caught off guard by the raw honesty in his tone. And she didn't have the strength or the desire to look away. Eden had never realized how many of her habits were born from fear, until she was forced to live without the fear, and the habits remained. She woke up before dawn, not out of necessity, but instinct. Checked the locks twice, pulled the curtains tighter, even when the room was already dim, scanned unfamiliar cars on the street from behind the living room blinds like she was still on the run, even in Logan's house, even with him asleep just down the hallway, even with the girls finally tucked into their own beds, safe, warm, dreaming in pink and blue comforters. She still couldn't let it go. Not yet. She moved quietly through the house in the early morning silence, her steps soft, measured. She passed the photo of Logan with the Titan tech board on the wall, the smiling portrait of a man in command of the world, but who had completely unraveled when his daughters first called him Daddy. Eden stood in the kitchen and stared at the coffee pot. She didn't make any. Instead, she stood in that stillness and listened, not to footsteps, not to threats, but to herself. And she heard something she hadn't heard in years. Longing. Later that morning, Eden dropped the girls off at the early learning center down the street. It was small, warm, colorful, the kind of place where teachers knew each child's name before the second day. Chloe clung to her bunny as she waved goodbye. Sophie darted off without hesitation. The moment Eden stepped back outside, she found Logan leaning against his car, coffee in hand. She blinked. How long have you been here? 15 minutes, he said casually. Didn't want a crowd. She gave him a look. You mean you didn't want to trigger one of my escape reflexes? His lips lifted. Exactly. They stood side by side for a moment in the cold morning sun. Old habits? He asked gently. Eden's jaw tightened. They die slower than I thought. You've had to stay ahead of fear for years. You can't just switch that off. I know, she said, but I want to. Logan sipped his coffee. Then let me help. She looked at him. Really looked. Not as the man she left behind, not as the CEO she'd once dated, but as the one who kept showing up, day after day, moment after moment, with patience, not pressure. Walk with me, she said. They strolled through the park near the school. Eden kept her hands in her pockets, her steps a little too precise. Logan let her set the pace. I still check behind me when I turn a corner, she admitted. I still sleep with my phone fully charged, flashlight app open. I still hesitate to answer unknown numbers, even now. Do you blame yourself for that? Sometimes, but mostly, I just don't know how to stop. Logan nodded slowly. When I lost you, I started checking my email obsessively. Texts, door cameras. I kept thinking you might leave a breadcrumb, something I missed. Her steps slowed. I never wanted to disappear from you, she said, just from the danger. I know that now, he replied. I didn't before. She looked at him. Do you still check your cameras? Only to see if you're okay. She smiled, but it was tired. I'm trying to learn how to be okay, not just survive, but it feels foreign. Because you never had the space to. She stopped walking, turned toward him. I want to trust this, she said. Not just the safety. You. Us. The idea that I don't have to be the only one watching the shadows. You're not, Logan said softly, and you never have to be again. Something in her eased. Barely, but it was a start. The library was small, tucked into a corner of the neighborhood just past the local elementary school. The air inside smelled like paper and lemon-scented cleaner, the kind of scent that promised quiet and escape. Eden wasn't looking for escape. She was looking for answers. While the girls colored in the children's area under the watchful eye of a nearby librarian, Eden stood at the far end of the nonfiction section, her hands shaking slightly as she turned pages in a tech magazine from 4 months ago. It was there. A short column buried between product launches and IPO analysis. A security breach. A shadow firm flagged for illicit surveillance tech. The name of one of its former employees jumped out at her like a slap. Calder Rain. She hadn't heard the name in 3 years, but she remembered the threat in his voice like it was yesterday. She snapped the magazine closed and stuffed it back into the rack, her fingers tightening around her phone. She forced herself to walk, slowly, deliberately, back toward the girls. Her eyes scanned the library, every stranger suddenly suspicious, every shadow deeper than it should have been. Chloe looked up as she approached. Done drawing? Sophie held up her masterpiece proudly. It's us, at the pancake place. Sure enough, there was a rough sketch of 2 girls, a big man with pancake arms and what Eden assumed was her, with cartoon hair and tired eyes. She laughed, touched the page. You're very talented. I know, Sophie said brightly, but Eden's smile didn't quite reach her eyes. By the time they returned to the house, the sky had shifted into pale golds and dusky pinks. The girls ran inside, shedding jackets and shoes, eager to chase each other through the hallway. Eden stood on the porch a moment longer. She didn't realize Logan was already there until she turned to go inside. He was seated in the corner of the porch, a glass of water in one hand, his laptop closed beside him. You okay? He asked, standing the moment he saw her face. She hesitated. No, she said honestly. He stepped forward. Tell me. She didn't speak. Instead, she pulled her phone from her bag, found the article, and handed it to him. Logan's expression darkened as he read the name. Is he the one? Eden nodded. That's him. He looked up sharply. You saw him? No, but he's back in circulation. If he's working again, if he's linked to any kind of surveillance firm, it means he's protected, funded, and interested in something. Logan exhaled through his nose, eyes narrowing. I want to know everything. His name, his connections, what he wants. I'll pull my security team, background investigators. We'll trace his movements. Eden's voice cut in. Logan, this isn't corporate espionage. This is personal. Exactly, he said. That's why I'm not waiting for him to come close. She looked down at her hands. I don't want to live like this again. Then don't, he said. Let me carry some of it. She met his eyes. He threatened me once. He said if I ever exposed him, he wouldn't come for me first. He'd go for the people I loved. Logan's jaw clenched. He won't get near you, or them. She studied him. You say that like it's easy. No, he said. I say that like it's final. That night, Logan stayed late. He didn't plan to. It just happened. Dinner was simple, spaghetti and salad, and Eden was surprised at how naturally they shared the space. Logan helped rinse dishes while Sophie hummed under her breath in the living room, building a pillow fort. Chloe sat nearby, methodically braiding her doll's hair. Later, when the girls were tucked in and the house settled, Logan lingered in the hallway outside their room. They trust me, he said, more to himself than to Eden. They see who you are. He turned, leaning against the wall, arms folded. Who am I, Eden? Her smile was small but certain. Someone they're not afraid of. He looked down at her for a long moment. You could have told me the truth, he said, softer now. Back then. I know. Why didn't you? Because the truth was too dangerous, and because I still loved you. The air between them stilled. Logan stepped closer, not too close, just close enough to let her feel the gravity of him. You still love me? The question wasn't demanding. It was quiet, earnest. Eden looked away. I never stopped, she admitted. He didn't move, didn't press, just breathed. Neither did I. She looked up, startled by the honesty in his voice, but he didn't kiss her, didn't reach for her. He simply stood there, 2 feet of memory and time and pain between them, and something else. Possibility. That night, Eden checked every door and window, every lock. But for the first time in a long while, she wasn't afraid of the dark. She was afraid of what it would mean to step fully into the light. Logan hadn't meant to ignore his company. He stared at his phone now, the screen a flurry of red calendar notifications and missed calls. Isla's last text had come 20 minutes ago. Please call me. The London deal is teetering. Marcus is about to strangle someone. Logan exhaled and finally hit dial. Isla answered on the first ring. Oh, thank God. I was 1 call away from sending a rescue dog with a cell phone strapped to its back. Logan rubbed the bridge of his nose. What's going on? London is threatening to pull out of the AI integration deal because your absence is being interpreted as lack of confidence. Marcus has been stonewalling them, but you know he's better with threats than charm. And the media picked up on your disappearing act. The word burnout was used in 3 separate outlets this morning. Fantastic, Logan muttered. Also, she continued, HR is in a tailspin because apparently you forgot we had the leadership retreat next week and none of the logistics are finalized. Should I keep going? No. Good, because I didn't even mention the shareholder committee. They want a face-to-face, soon. Logan pinched the bridge of his nose again, already feeling the migraine forming. Where are you? Ayla asked. There was a pause. I'm with my daughters, he said quietly. Silence met him on the line. When Ayla spoke again, her voice was gentler. Say that again? I'm with Eden and the twins, Sophie and Chloe. A beat. Then, I see, she said, and he could hear her processing in real time. I didn't know they existed until last week, Logan added. I'm still figuring out how to breathe. Ayla exhaled slowly. Okay, that changes a few things. I know. I'll buy you 48 hours, she said. No more. After that, if you're not back on a call with London and smoothing over the PR mess, they'll start assuming worse than burnout. Thank you. Just be sure, Logan, she added. Whatever's happening, be sure it's worth it. He didn't hesitate. It is. That evening, back at the house, Eden found Logan in the backyard, tie undone, laptop open on the patio table, and a crayon drawing of a rainbow tucked between a stack of quarterly earnings reports. She leaned on the doorframe, arms crossed. Looks like someone's juggling. He looked up and gave her a tired half smile. It's more like barely keeping plates in the air while a 5-year-old draws unicorns on them. She walked over and sat across from him. I can take the girls to the daycare preview alone tomorrow, she offered. Give you time to... No, he said firmly. I want to be there. I need to be there. Your company might not agree. He looked out across the yard. For 10 years, Titan was everything. It still matters. But, he paused, but it's not the only thing anymore. Eden studied him. You're changing, she said softly. I think I already have. She didn't know what to say to that, so she just sat with him while the sun dipped lower, casting gold across the grass. The back door opened, and Sophie's voice called out, Mama, can we show Daddy our tent? Logan glanced at Eden. Go, she said. He stood, tucking the laptop aside, and as she watched him disappear into the living room where the girls had turned sofa cushions into a princess fort, Eden realized something unexpected. He wasn't losing control. He was finding it in a different kind of power, the kind rooted in presence, in love, in choosing what truly matters. That night, long after the girls were asleep and Logan had gone home, Eden lay awake, listening to the silence. There was something terrifyingly wonderful about knowing she wasn't the only one carrying the weight anymore. She wasn't sure how long it would last or where this road led, but for the first time in years, she didn't feel alone. The night was quiet, the house dim, the soft click of the front door the only sound as Logan stepped inside. I'm late, he called gently, but I brought dessert. Eden stepped out of the kitchen, barefoot in leggings and a soft gray sweater. Her hair was pulled up, wisps escaping near her temples. She looked exhausted. She looked like home. You didn't have to, she said. He held up a paper bag. Don't pretend you don't love tiramisu. She raised an eyebrow. You remember that? I remember a lot of things, he said, setting the bag on the counter. She poured him a glass of water without asking. He accepted it with a nod, and for a long moment, they stood in the kitchen in comfortable silence. Two people who used to be everything to each other, now orbiting something delicate and undefined. How'd the meeting go? She asked finally. London's still skittish, he said, but Marcus threw around enough legal jargon to make them reconsider. You gonna be okay? Logan leaned against the counter, running a hand down his face. I'm managing. Isla's covering more than she should. I owe her. Eden gave him a small smile. You always had good instincts with people. I just didn't trust them where it mattered most. Her smile faded. Logan looked at her. Really looked. You were right to be afraid, Eden, about Calder, about disappearing. I may not like how it happened, but I'm starting to understand why, she exhaled. That's more grace than I expected. I'm not a man who forgives easily, he said, but I'm also not the same man you left behind. He stepped closer, not crowding, but near enough that she could feel the weight of his presence. You're different too, he added. I had to be, she whispered. He nodded slowly. I see that now. There was a pause. Something shifted in the space between them. Neither of them moved. Neither looked away. I still think about that night, Logan said softly. Eden blinked, her breath catching. Which one? The night before you left. You wore that black dress with the side slit. We had dinner on the balcony. You were laughing, and I... He stopped, emotion catching in his throat. I was going to propose, he admitted. Eden's lips parted. Her hand gripped the edge of the counter. You never told me. I didn't get the chance, he said. The ring was in my pocket. You were gone by morning. Silence fell like snow between them, gentle but cold. I would have said yes, she said finally. The air thickened. Logan stepped closer now, barely a breath between them. You still would? The question hung there, suspended in the fragile trust they'd rebuilt. She didn't answer. Instead, she reached up, slowly as if unsure it was allowed, and touched his face. Logan leaned into her palm like he'd been starving for the touch, and then without warning but with total certainty, he kissed her. It wasn't rushed, it wasn't wild, it was full of years, full of ache, full of every word they hadn't said, every moment they'd missed, every heartbeat they'd spent apart. Eden let herself feel it. Let her fingers slide into his hair. Let her body remember what it was like to be wanted, known. But when he pulled back, forehead resting lightly against hers, she was already bracing. This changes things, she whispered. Yeah, he said, it does. I'm not ready. I'll wait. The silence between them this time wasn't cold. It was full of possibility. Outside, the porch light flickered once and went still. Inside, they stood suspended in the space between past and future, and for the first time since everything began, neither of them turned away. It had rained the night before. The driveway was still damp when Eden stepped out onto the porch with a coffee mug in hand, steam curling in the soft morning chill. Inside, the girls were finishing up breakfast. Chloe had managed to get syrup on her sleeve. Sophie was busy building a Lego tower on the kitchen table instead of eating. Logan's SUV rolled into the driveway with a quiet hum. Eden watched him climb out, crisp in dark jeans and a charcoal sweater, holding a brown folder under one arm and a faint crease between his brows, not tense, but focused. Good morning, he said, meeting her at the porch steps. Is it? She asked with a smile that didn't quite hide her nerves. Depends on how this goes, he replied, lifting the folder. Inside, the girls waved excitedly from the window. Logan lifted a hand, smiling warmly, but his eyes returned to Eden. Do I need to be worried? She asked as they stepped into the house. No, he said, lowering his voice, but you should be prepared. They sat across from each other at the kitchen table, while Sophie and Chloe took their pancake party to the living room under the promise of a morning movie. Eden watched as Logan opened the folder and laid out 3 neatly stacked documents. Okay, she said slowly. This looks serious. It is, he admitted, but not in the way you're thinking. He took a breath. I want to formalize this, the house, the support, the time I spend with the girls. I don't want you worrying about where you stand or where they stand if something happens to me or to this fragile piece we're trying to rebuild. Eden stared at the papers. You're asking for custody? No, he said quickly. Not yet, maybe not ever, but I want legal standing. Shared guardianship, a co-parenting agreement that gives them stability and gives you security. Her eyes flicked up. This feels sudden. Is it? He asked. I missed 5 years of their lives. I'm not trying to make decisions for you, Eden. I'm asking to be invited in. Fully. She sat back, arms crossed. And what does that mean for us? His gaze softened. It means I stop existing in the space between guest and father. It means I get to take them to school, attend meetings, be on emergency contact forms, not just the guy who comes over for pancakes and bedtime stories. And the house? She asked. It's yours, no strings. I had the title placed in a trust this morning. It's in their names. All I want is for them to have a home. Eden blinked, stunned. You didn't have to. I know, he said gently, but I wanted to. She looked down at the papers, her heart twisting. You're making it hard to hold on to my walls. Maybe it's time to let them down. The day passed slowly, colored by reflection. Eden didn't sign the documents immediately. She read through them twice, called a lawyer friend from her past life, sat under a tree in the backyard while the girls played with sidewalk chalk nearby, drawing suns and flowers and messy hearts. By the time the sun began to dip, Logan was back. this time with a pizza box under his arm and a familiar look of caution in his eyes. Eden met him at the door. "Do I need to bribe you with pepperoni to get an answer?" he asked. She didn't smile. Instead, she opened the folder, pulled out the signed agreement, and placed it in his hand. "You didn't have to convince me you're serious," she said softly. "You've shown me." Logan looked down at the signature, then back at her. "You're sure?" She nodded. "You belong in their lives. I know that now." He held the papers for a moment longer, then set them aside and stepped forward, slowly, carefully. "Thank you," he said. "You're welcome." Their eyes met. The air between them buzzed with something unsaid. Logan reached up, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. But Eden stepped back, just slightly. "Let's take it one step at a time," she said. Logan nodded, his hand falling to his side. One step at a time. And yet, as he knelt in the living room minutes later to help Sophie with her puzzle and lift Chloe into his lap, Eden couldn't ignore what was already changing. He wasn't orbiting anymore. He was part of their center. And maybe, just maybe, she was learning to trust again. Not just him, but the idea that this could finally be real. Here is Chapter 12, Secrets and Lullabies, of your Billionaire Romance audiobook, Claiming What's Mine. This chapter is a quiet, emotional breather after the formal co-parenting agreement in Chapter 11. It focuses on vulnerability, personal history, and emotional intimacy, all wrapped in the simplicity of bedtime routines and long overdue connection. Chapter 12, Secrets and Lullabies. The night was warm, but Eden pulled the blanket higher anyway. Chloe was already asleep, her bunny tucked beneath one arm, her breath slow and steady. But Sophie, wide-eyed and bouncing from her second wind, clung to the edge of wakefulness like a challenge. "Just one more story," she whispered, holding up a book with unicorns on the cover. Eden sighed, but smiled. "We've already read 2. Please? Just the short one. Daddy can read it." Logan, seated at the foot of the bed, glanced up, clearly caught off guard. Eden arched an eyebrow. "Up for it?" He took the book slowly. "Sure, why not?" Sophie snuggled deeper into the pillow, grinning like she'd won the lottery. Logan cleared his throat and began reading. His voice was softer than Eden expected, smoother, with a natural rhythm that pulled Sophie into the story like a tide. His cadence slowed at the right places, paused for her reactions, and warmed with every sentence. Eden leaned against the doorway, watching him, watching them. By the time he reached the last page, Sophie was half asleep, her fingers curled under her cheek, her lashes fluttering. Logan closed the book gently. She didn't open her eyes. He looked up, gaze locking with Eden's. "I didn't think I'd be good at this," he said, barely above a whisper. "You are," she replied just as quietly. Logan stood, tucking the blanket around Sophie's shoulders. His hand lingered for a second before he pulled away. Eden followed him out into the hallway, pulling the door closed behind her. They moved downstairs together, the hush of the house settling around them like a soft cloak. In the kitchen, Logan leaned against the island, his fingers tracing the rim of a forgotten glass. "I never had that," he said. "Bedtime stories. Quiet nights. My father was always at the office. My mother, well, she preferred the country estate." Eden poured water into 2 mugs, letting him talk. "I used to think that if I worked hard enough, built something big enough, I'd never become like them." "You didn't," she said. "Didn't I?" he asked, glancing at her. "I let 5 years go by without knowing they existed." She stepped closer, holding out a mug. "That wasn't your fault." "I know," he said, "but it still feels like a hole I'll never fill." Eden exhaled, her eyes softening. "They don't see a hole. They see their dad. They don't care what you missed. Stessa, they care that you're here now." He gave a small, almost incredulous smile. "They call me daddy like they've known me forever. They trust you." He looked down at his mug. "I'm not sure I deserve that yet." "You're showing up," she said. "Every day. That counts." A long silence settled between them, comfortable this time, grounded in shared understanding. Logan's voice was quieter now. "Do you remember the night you told me you wanted kids?" Eden nodded slowly. "You were halfway through a bottle of red wine, pacing the living room, listing baby names like it was a boardroom pitch." He smiled. "You threw a pillow at me. You were trying to name a daughter Logan. I stand by it." They both laughed softly, but then the humor faded, replaced by something weightier. "I wanted this," Logan said. "Even then, I didn't know how much. But now that I have it, You're afraid it'll be taken away? He met her eyes. Yeah. Eden stepped closer. Me too. She didn't reach for him, didn't offer comfort with touch, but the look in her eyes said everything. I see you. I'm scared too, but we're here. Later that night, after Logan left and the house was quiet again, Eden returned to the girl's room. She sat on the edge of Sophie's bed, brushing a stray curl from her daughter's forehead. Then she whispered something she hadn't said aloud in a long time. Maybe, just maybe, we're not running anymore. Outside, the wind rustled gently through the trees. And for once, the silence that followed didn't feel like fear. It felt like the first verse of something new. The morning began with giggles and confetti. Pink and purple streamers crisscrossed the living room ceiling. A half-dozen helium balloons floated aimlessly, bumping against the furniture with soft thuds. Sophie had insisted on unicorn-themed everything. Chloe wanted something quiet and green, which Eden translated into pastel cupcakes and a small pile of forest animal plushies. Logan stood in the doorway holding a tray of juice boxes, looking slightly out of place amid the glitter. They said birthday parties were chaos, he muttered. They didn't mention tactical glitter bombs. Eden passed him a paper crown. You're the birthday party king now. Wear it with pride. He gave her a long-suffering look, but placed the crown on his head anyway. The house filled gradually. 2 neighborhood moms Eden had gotten to know, their toddlers in tow, and 1 young teacher from the preschool. No one asked too many questions. If anyone noticed Logan's resemblance to the twins, they didn't say a word. Sophie twirled in her new sparkly dress. Chloe sat quietly at the gift table, carefully untying each ribbon like she was opening a treasure map. And for a while, everything felt almost normal, until it didn't. It started with the cake. The girls sat side by side at the dining table, eyes wide as Eden carried it in vanilla with whipped frosting, topped with 5 candles. Logan knelt beside them. Okay, big moment. Make a wish. Sophie glanced at Chloe. Chloe looked at Eden, and then Sophie's face crumpled. I don't know what to wish for, she said, voice shaky. Eden leaned in. Sweetheart, anything you want. I already got what I wanted, Sophie whispered, looking at Logan. I wished for a daddy. The words were so pure, so unexpectedly sharp that Eden's breath caught. But Chloe, quiet Chloe, folded her arms, lips trembling. No fair. I didn't wish for a daddy. I didn't even know we could. The room fell still. A balloon popped in the corner. Chloe's eyes filled. I didn't know to wish for anything. What if I don't get to keep it? Then she began to cry, softly, then fully, face pressed to the table as Eden rushed to her side. Logan froze, helpless. Eden wrapped her arms around Chloe, holding her gently. It's okay, baby. It's okay. But Chloe's words kept tumbling out. What if he goes away? What if it's pretend? I don't want him to go away. Logan's chest tightened. He stood slowly, walked around the table, and crouched beside Chloe, who peeked at him through damp lashes. I'm not going anywhere, he said gently. I promise. But you weren't here before, she whispered. I didn't know you existed, he said, his voice thick. If I had, I would have come. Nothing could have stopped me. Chloe blinked, her lip wobbling. Pinky promise? She asked. Logan held out his pinky. Double, he said. She wrapped hers around his. Eden watched it all with a lump in her throat the size of a mountain. The guests left soon after, offering quiet smiles and thank yous as they filtered out. The house was a battlefield of half-torn wrapping paper, frosting-smudged plates, and confetti in every crevice. Logan and Eden stood in the kitchen while the girls played in the other room. I thought we were doing okay, he said quietly. I didn't realize how much fear they were still carrying. Eden wiped a counter with slow, even movements. They're like sponges. They feel more than they say. Chloe, she holds it in. Always has. I didn't know how to fix it, Logan admitted. You didn't need to, she said. You showed up. That's what mattered. He looked at her. Can I ask you something? She nodded. When did you stop believing this was possible? Eden froze. Then, the day I left, the day I realized protecting them meant letting go of you. He stepped closer. And now? I don't know, she admitted. Today was beautiful and messy and heartbreaking, and I still don't know. He didn't press her. Instead, he picked up a plate, rinsed it under the faucet, and set it in the drying rack. Then I'll keep showing up, he said, until you do. Later that night, Eden tucked the girls into bed and lingered in the doorway, watching their faces soften by sleep. Downstairs, Logan sat on the couch, jacket folded beside him, the paper crown still resting lopsided on his head. "You're still wearing that?" Eden asked. He shrugged. "Apparently being a birthday king is a full-day commitment." She laughed. And for a moment, just a moment, she imagined what every birthday before this could have looked like, and what every one after this might become. Logan stared at the file on his desk long after the office lights had dimmed. The rest of Titan Tech's headquarters had emptied out hours ago. Isla had gone home, Marcus had stopped texting, and the last security guard had nodded a quiet goodnight. But Logan stayed behind. He had asked for a report, just a soft inquiry, discreet. And now that report sat in front of him. Thick, incomplete, and heavier than he expected. He hadn't told Eden. He hadn't promised not to ask questions, but he hadn't told her he would either. He opened the folder and skimmed the first few pages. Alias used Claire Monroe. Cities, Philadelphia, Portland, Sacramento. Cash payments. School enrollments under assumed names. No digital trace until 3 months ago. No legal incident records. No suspicious activity, but always moving. Always just ahead of a shadow. Logan closed the folder. He didn't want to distrust her. He didn't want to be that man, the one who needed proof of every truth a woman gave him. But something didn't add up, and he couldn't ignore it. The next day, Eden was in the kitchen when Logan walked in unannounced. She didn't startle this time. "You're early," she said, wiping her hands on a dish towel. "Girls are upstairs playing dress-up. Chloe's making Sophie be the prince this time." Logan chuckled, but his eyes were distant. Eden noticed it immediately. "What's wrong?" she asked. He hesitated. "I need to ask you something." She stilled. "Go ahead," she said, though her voice was quieter now. "When you left," Logan began carefully, "you told me you were running from Calder Rain, from the leak, from the fear of being watched. But that's not all of it, is it?" "I found a file," he admitted. "I had someone look into your movements, just enough to see the gaps." Her eyes darkened. "You had me investigated?" "Eden. Logan, I told you what I could handle telling. Do you know how hard it is to be afraid every day and still show up for your children?" His voice stayed calm. "I do now, which is why I needed to understand." She looked away. "There were people," she said finally. "More than Calder. People he worked with. They weren't just stealing data. They were selling surveillance access. Real-time tracking, audio feeds, even home networks." Logan's stomach turned. "And you were part of the project that could stop it." "I was the lead, and that made me the target." She moved to the window, arms crossed tightly. "I wasn't just running to protect the girls. I was hiding because someone wanted me quiet, permanently. I thought if I disappeared, they'd forget me. Let me go." "Did they?" he asked. "No, but I became less valuable once the company scrubbed my access and terminated the contract. Still, every time I heard a car door slam or a phone buzz unexpectedly, I panicked." Logan approached slowly. "You should have come to me." "I wanted to." "Then why didn't you?" She turned around, eyes shining. "Because I was pregnant, Logan. Because I didn't want the first time you saw me after everything to be me handing you a child and asking you to run with me." He froze. "I thought I was protecting you," she said. His voice was low. "You were protecting everyone but yourself." Her arms dropped to her sides. "That's what motherhood feels like." They stood there for a moment, the silence between them taut. Then Logan stepped forward. "I don't need every detail, Eden, but I need to know this isn't still chasing you." "I don't know if it is." "That's not good enough," her jaw set. "Then maybe this was a mistake." "No," he said firmly. "It wasn't. But trust goes both ways." She looked at him, raw and defensive and afraid. "Then trust that I've survived more than you think." And with that, she walked upstairs, leaving Logan alone in the kitchen. Later that night, as he sat on the porch steps, the file unopened beside him, Chloe wandered out in her pajamas. "You're not going home?" she asked sleepily. "Not yet," he said, patting the step beside him. She climbed up, her bunny under one arm. "Mommy cried a little," she said. Logan's throat tightened. "I know." "You make her think too much," Chloe added. He smiled faintly. "I think she makes me do the same." Chloe looked up at him. "Are you staying forever?" Logan's voice caught. "I'm going to try." She leaned her head on his arm. "Okay." And they sat like that. Him and this little person who barely knew him, but somehow already understood everything that mattered. The late afternoon sun filtered through the playground trees, casting golden halos across the mulch and climbing structures. Laughter echoed, children on swings, tag games in full chaos, little legs running, jumping, tumbling. Eden sat on a bench near the edge of the play area, her tote bag at her feet, coffee growing cold beside her. Chloe and Sophie were playing near the sandbox, giggling over a bucket of rocks they were pretending were diamonds. Logan was at a nearby picnic table, half listening to a business call with one earbud in, keeping a steady eye on the girls. Eden should have been relaxed, but something felt off. Not loud, not obvious, just off. She scanned the edge of the park. A man leaned casually against a tree, phone in hand, sunglasses on. Not playing, not with kids, not part of a group, and too still. Eden's stomach knotted. She'd felt this before. She stood slowly, brushing her palms on her jeans. Girls? She called, 5 more minutes. Sophie groaned. Already? Logan looked up, catching her tone. He stood, his phone now forgotten. Everything okay? He asked, voice low as he joined her. She didn't answer. Not directly. Third tree to the right, tan jacket. Watching us, she murmured. Logan followed her line of sight. The man was gone. Just gone. Eden's pulse surged. Logan was already pulling out his phone. I'll call security. No, she said sharply. Not here. Not in front of them. She grabbed Chloe's hand, motioned for Sophie. We're going. Logan didn't question it. They moved quickly, calmly, like nothing was wrong, just a family ready to call it a day. But Eden's grip on Chloe's hand was white-knuckled. Back at the house, Logan double-checked every lock while Eden closed the blinds and pulled the girls into the kitchen with snacks and a cartoon, her voice cheerful but tight. He returned a few minutes later, jaw set. They're sweeping the park, he said. One of the cameras caught him. Facial matches pending, but... It's Calder, Eden finished. Logan's eyes flickered. You're sure? I don't forget people who make threats. She leaned against the counter, exhaling slowly. Why now? She whispered. Why come back now? Logan's voice was like steel wrapped in velvet. Because you resurfaced and someone noticed, or because he wants to rattle you, or both. I can't go back to running, she said. You won't, he replied. She looked up, startled by the certainty in his tone. I've increased the security detail, Logan added. 2 plainclothes outside, 24 hours, driveway sensors, entry monitoring. Nothing happens without me knowing. Logan, I don't need your permission to protect you, he said, just your trust. She hesitated. That's what I'm afraid of. His expression didn't falter. Then be afraid, but don't face it alone. That night, after the girls fell asleep, curled together in Eden's bed, Eden stood at the window, arms wrapped around her torso. Logan stepped into the room quietly. I can sleep in the guest room, he said. You don't have to stay. I know, he said simply, but I'm going to. She turned toward him. There's a part of me, she said, that still flinches when the doorbell rings, that checks shadows twice, that wonders if every quiet day is just borrowed time. He stepped closer. And there's a part of me, he replied, that doesn't know how to stop showing up for you. They didn't touch, didn't kiss, but they stood shoulder to shoulder at the window, looking out into the night that had once been a threat, and now felt like a line in the sand. The man in the park hadn't come back, not yet, but the silence left in his place felt loaded, measured, a warning waiting to be understood. Rain pelted the windows like an urgent whisper, constant, tapping, relentless. Eden stood in the hallway with the lights off, watching the front door as if it might open on its own. She hadn't moved in over 20 minutes. Her phone sat silent in her hand. The girls were asleep upstairs, the baby monitor humming softly nearby. Logan's voice echoed in her mind. Then be afraid, but don't face it alone. But she had always faced it alone. Until now. The door creaked behind her. She didn't flinch. Security confirmed it, Logan said, stepping into the hallway. The man at the park called her. Her breath didn't catch. It didn't need to. She'd already known. I told you, she said. Logan moved closer, holding a tablet with a paused video feed. He was watching from the tree line. 22 minutes. No camera caught how he got there. No car. No arrival on foot. Because he knows how to move without being seen. Logan's voice turned grim. Then I'll make sure we're seen, protected, out of his reach. She turned to him, jaw tight. Do you think you can shield us from everything? No, he said without hesitation, but I can make it a hell of a lot harder for him to reach you. She studied him. What does that mean? It means I've filed for an emergency injunction. I've notified federal authorities and I've pulled private records from the case you were connected to. Quietly. Eden's eyes widened. You what? Logan didn't blink. I'm not playing defense anymore. You went into federal records without telling me? I'm trying to keep you safe. And what if that draws more attention? She snapped. What if you just told them exactly where we are? His jaw worked, but he didn't answer right away. Eden turned away, pacing toward the living room. The storm outside lit up the windows in flashes. This was my fear, she said, that you'd come in and take over everything, that I'd lose control again. You were never in control, he said quietly. You were in survival mode. And maybe that was better than this, she said, turning to face him. At least then I knew how to stay invisible. You're painting targets on our backs with every move. I'm painting shields, he shot back. You've lived in fear long enough. That ends now. The silence that followed was thunderous, and then it cracked. I'm done running, Eden said, her voice shaking. So if this is the fight, I'm in. But we do it together. No more secret files, no more decisions behind my back. I don't need saving, Logan. I need partnership. His expression shifted, and for the first time since Calder resurfaced, Eden saw it. Not just protectiveness in his eyes, but respect. I hear you, he said. I need to know you mean it. I do. Another beat passed, thick with everything unspoken. Then Logan took a step forward, not to pull her close, not to shelter her, but to stand beside her. What do you want to do next, he asked. Eden exhaled slowly. We set the terms. We decide how this ends. And Calder? She met his gaze, steady now. He's not the threat he used to be. I'm not the woman who ran. Logan gave a slow, hard nod. Then let's make sure he learns that. Later that night, Eden sat at the kitchen table, fingers wrapped around a warm mug she hadn't touched. Logan sat across from her, eyes scanning reports, threat assessments, legal filings. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. For the first time since she'd re-entered his life, Eden felt something shift, not just between them, but inside herself. This wasn't surrender. It was alliance. Outside, the storm broke, and inside, the foundation of something unshakable had begun to form. Together. The clock read 1:08 a.m. The house was still, the kind of quiet that made every sound feel amplified. Creaking floorboards, distant rain dripping from the gutters, the gentle click of the kettle as it cooled on the stove. Eden sat at the kitchen table, her hands wrapped around a mug that had long gone cold. Her eyes were fixed on nothing in particular, but her mind was wide awake. She didn't hear Logan come in, but she felt it. He paused in the doorway, sensing the weight of her silence. You couldn't sleep either, he said softly. No, she replied. Too much inside me tonight. He came closer, pulled out the chair across from her, and waited. She didn't speak right away. When she did, her voice was measured, deliberate, like she'd carried these words too long, too deeply buried, and now she was finally exhaling. Do you remember the night I disappeared? She asked. Logan nodded once. I remember waking up and thinking it was a dream, then realizing it wasn't. Eden stared at her mug. I found out I was pregnant 2 days before that night. I hadn't told you yet. I wasn't ready. I'd just come off that project with the federal subcontractor, and I was feeling watched. Logan didn't interrupt. He just listened. There was a knock on my door. No one there. Just an envelope left on the mat. Inside were pictures. Ones of me, taken without my knowledge. At the lab. Outside your condo. Even one from the grocery store. She swallowed hard. And a note. No signature, just a line. You talk, he dies. I panicked, she continued. I was terrified. And then I thought about the baby. And suddenly, my fear doubled. Tripled. I wasn't just protecting myself anymore. She lifted her eyes to his. You would have tried to fix it. Gone to the board. Called in favors. You would have burned the world down to protect me. You're right, he said quietly. But I couldn't risk you getting caught in the fire. Tears welled in her eyes. So I packed a bag. Called in a favor from someone who owed me, a private identity scrub, a flight. I left my phone behind, walked away from everything, from you, from us. She wiped at her cheek, frustrated by the emotion she couldn't seem to contain. I thought if I stayed off the grid long enough, it would blow over, but by the time I realized it wouldn't, it had been too long. Too many lies, too many walls built. Logan's voice was raw. Why didn't you call me after the girls were born? I held Sophie for the first time and I thought of you. I wanted to call so badly. But every time I looked at them, I saw what could be lost if I made the wrong move. And after a year, 2, I convinced myself you'd moved on, that maybe it was better this way. You'd be safe. They'd be safe. I didn't expect to run into you. I didn't expect them to recognize you. Logan sat back, letting the weight of her words settle. I spent so long being angry, he said. At you, at myself, at the silence. But now I just feel tired. She nodded, voice soft. So do I. A long silence stretched between them. I didn't stop loving you, she whispered. Logan looked at her. I don't think I ever did either. They didn't touch. They didn't cross the invisible line between forgiveness and something more. But in that moment, everything that had once been buried between them was laid bare, and neither one turned away. Hours later, Eden lay awake in bed, the truth no longer a weight, but an echo. Down the hall, the girls slept soundly, and across the hallway, Logan was still there, still choosing to stay. The world was quiet when Eden stepped into the hallway. She wasn't sure what pulled her from bed, a dream, a shift in air, or just the weight of everything unsaid. Her bare feet barely made a sound as she padded down the corridor toward the faintest sliver of light under the guest room door. She knocked gently. Logan's voice came through, low and tired. Yeah? She opened the door. He was sitting at the edge of the bed in a white t-shirt and sweatpants, the TV on mute, the remote in his hand like he hadn't realized he was still holding it. Their eyes met. No pretense, no armor. Couldn't sleep, she said softly. He nodded once. Same. Eden stepped inside, closed the door behind her. The air between them was charged, thick with everything they'd said and everything they hadn't. I've been thinking about that night, she said. Before I left. Before everything. Logan leaned forward, elbows on his knees. I remember it like it was yesterday. I was scared then, she whispered, but not of you. Never of you. He looked at her slowly. You should have told me. I'm telling you now. The silence stretched. Then, do you ever wonder what it would have been like? He asked. If that night had gone differently? All the time. She took a breath. I would have said yes, she added. He blinked. To the proposal? She nodded. He stood, slowly, like any sudden movement would break the moment wide open. I thought you might. Eden looked up at him. And now? I don't know what this is between us, Logan admitted, but it's real, and it's growing, and I don't want to fight it anymore. She didn't answer. Instead, she stepped toward him. There were no fireworks when she reached out, no dramatic music, just the quiet sound of her hands sliding into his, just the soft exhale they both shared as they closed the space between them. The kiss came slowly, unrushed, not desperate, but full of something deeper. It tasted like memory and regret, like forgiveness and hope, like something that had waited years for permission to breathe. When they pulled apart, Eden didn't speak. Her forehead rested against his chest, his arms wrapped around her like they belonged there. This complicates everything, she whispered. I know. I'm not sure what it means. Me neither. But I don't want to regret it, she said. You won't, he replied. They didn't rush anything after that. They didn't make grand declarations or rush into bed with wild abandon. Instead, they moved slowly, reverently, like two people who knew what it was to lose everything and were now learning how to hold something again. The touch of fingers against skin, the slow rhythm of breath against breath, the whisper of his name when she wasn't bracing for goodbye. By the time the sun began to rise, Eden lay beside him, her head on his chest, his heartbeat steady beneath her cheek. And for the first time in years, she didn't feel like she was trespassing in her own life. She felt chosen, not chased. Down the hall, the girls slept soundly. Outside, the wind moved through the trees with gentle grace, and inside, two people who had lived entire lifetimes apart were finally, tentatively, finding their way back to one another. Sunlight spilled through the windows in golden streaks, casting soft light over the hardwood floor. The morning was slow, almost too still, like the world hadn't caught up with what had changed overnight. Eden lay in the quiet just a moment longer. The space beside her was warm. Logan had already gotten up, but not far. She could hear faint sounds coming from the kitchen. Running water, a cupboard closing gently, the scrape of a chair. Nothing frantic, nothing forced, just morning. She pulled on a robe and padded barefoot down the hallway. As she reached the kitchen doorway, she stopped. He was at the stove, barefoot, sleeves pushed up, humming something low under his breath as he flipped pancakes. Pancakes. Again. "Morning," he said without looking up. "I figured you might be hungry, and we had blueberries. Kind of a sin not to use them." Eden folded her arms across her chest, watching him. "You always cook after a major emotional event?" He glanced over his shoulder. "Only for women who keep vanishing from my life and then knocking the wind out of me." Her lips quirked. "That's fair." He plated the pancakes and poured her a cup of coffee, black, just the way she liked it, without asking. She sat across from him. They didn't speak at first, just ate, slow and quiet. But there was no tension, no awkwardness, only something that felt like the beginning of ease. After a while, Eden broke the silence. "So what now?" Logan leaned back. "You tell me." "I didn't plan for this," he smiled softly. "Neither did I, but I'm not sorry." "Neither am I." He looked at her, really looked at her, and something in his expression shifted, softened. "You don't have to explain or define it today," he said. "We don't owe anyone a label, just honesty." She nodded slowly. "I'm trying." "I know." Another pause. Then she said it so simply that it surprised even her. "I liked waking up next to you." Logan's brow lifted. "I liked it too," he said, "more than I expected." He reached across the table, not for her hand, but for her empty mug. "Another coffee? Please." Later that afternoon, Eden sat on the front porch while the girls played with chalk on the driveway. She was sketching hearts, writing their names in looping pastel letters. Logan sat beside her, his suit jacket off, tie loosened, having just returned from a short meeting at Titan Tech. "They told me I looked different," he said. Eden looked sideways at him. "Different how?" "Less hostile, more human." She laughed. "Is that an insult or a compliment?" she asked. "Not sure, but I'll take it." She nudged his arm. "You have changed." His smile faded into something more reflective. "I think I just remembered what it feels like to be needed. Not for power, not for status, just needed." "By us?" "Yeah." Chloe ran up then, cheeks flushed, her hands covered in pink chalk dust. "Look," she cried, holding up her drawing. "It's our house, and you and Mommy and us." She had drawn a stick figure version of Logan, complete with messy hair and big shoes. Eden was beside him, holding both girls' hands. "I love it," Logan said softly. Chloe grinned and ran off again. He turned back to Eden. "I want more days like this," he said. "You sound surprised." "I am. A year ago, I didn't think this life was even possible. Now I'm afraid of losing it." "You're not going to." He looked at her. "Are you sure?" She took his hand this time, lacing their fingers together. "No," she said, "but I'm falling again, and this time I'm not falling alone." The breeze picked up, tugging at Eden's hair as she leaned into him, and in that moment, no legal battle, no surveillance, no shadow from the past, nothing mattered more than the fact that they were here, together. The evening air was cool, tinged with the scent of rain that hadn't yet arrived. Eden stood at the edge of the backyard while the girls danced in wide loops through the grass, chasing bubbles from a toy wand Chloe had begged for all week. Their laughter floated across the yard, light and high, untethered by the weight their mother carried. Logan approached slowly, a bottle of sparkling water in one hand, his shirt sleeves rolled to his elbows. His tie was gone, his jaw tense. "I got a call from Marcus," he said. Eden turned, brows lifting. "Everything okay?" "He says the board wants a vote, a new chair. They want someone more present." Her chest tightened. "Because of us?" Logan shook his head. "Because of me. But yeah, this life shift I've made, it's not subtle." Eden searched his face. "And what are you going to do?" He stepped closer. "I'm going to let them vote, and if they want someone else leading, that's fine." She blinked. "That's not the Logan I remember." "It's not. But the man I used to be, he had money, power, control. But none of this," he said, gesturing toward the yard. "He didn't have you, or them, and he was always alone." Eden swallowed. "I'm not choosing work over you, Eden. Not anymore." The weight of his words sank deep. "I don't want to just visit this life," he continued. "I want to live it. With you." Her breath caught. He stepped closer, eyes steady. "Let's make it real. For good. Move in with me, or let's build something new. Together." It wasn't a proposal in the romantic sense. There was no ring, no kneeling, just truth and choice. Eden looked away toward the girls, now lying in the grass watching clouds drift. "I want to," she said. "But?" "I'm afraid I'll ruin it," she admitted. That something will snap, or someone will come back, or I'll become someone I don't recognize again. You won't. You don't know that. I know you, he said. The woman who walked away to protect her children, the one who taught them to laugh even when she was afraid. You're not weak, you're the strongest person I know. She met his eyes, hers brimming. I want to say yes, she whispered. Then say it. I need time. He nodded. Take it. She stepped forward, pressing a hand gently against his chest. Don't wait for me. I'm not waiting, he said. I'm standing still until you're ready to walk beside me. Tears slipped quietly down her cheeks, and Logan brushed them away with a tenderness that was more intimate than any kiss. I'm all in, he said. When you are, we'll build the rest. That night, Eden sat at the window, watching lightning flash on the horizon. The storm hadn't come, but she knew it would. Still, part of her believed they'd weather it. This time, not alone. Not anymore. The school pickup line had always been uneventful. Eden usually arrived 10 minutes early, parked in the second row, and waited with a reusable coffee cup balanced on her thigh and a playlist humming low in the background. But today, the car felt like a trap. Today, her hands wouldn't stop shaking, because he was there. Calder, leaning against the hood of a black sedan across the street. He wore sunglasses, a dark jacket, the same smug posture that used to haunt her in her dreams. Calm, still, as if his presence wasn't a declaration of war, but a casual visit to an old friend. He didn't approach, didn't wave, just waited, watching. Eden's breath caught in her throat as the school bell rang and children poured out of the main doors in joyful chaos. She locked eyes with Chloe first, then Sophie, both of them skipping toward the car with oblivious delight. She stepped out quickly, voice steady but firm. Inside, now, Sophie pouted. But now, Sophie, she said, her tone leaving no room for argument. Both girls scrambled into the back seat. Eden didn't look back as she buckled them in, but she felt Calder's presence like a heat signature pressed to the side of her neck. She pulled away from the curb and didn't breathe until she'd made 3 left turns in a row, just to be sure they weren't being followed. Logan was waiting on the porch when she got home, phone in hand. The look on her face said it all. He was there, she said, voice brittle. At the school, Logan's jaw clenched. Did he say anything? No, he didn't need to. Get the girls inside, he said, already dialing. Eden led them in, her hands gentle even as her heart raced. She settled them on the couch with snacks and a movie, kissed both foreheads, and returned to the front door to find Logan pacing the driveway. Security's pulling footage, he said. Marcus is calling in a few favors to get a quiet federal response. I'm not waiting for another close call. Eden stepped in front of him. He knows where we are now. He's not hiding anymore. He wants control, Logan said. Fear is his leverage. Then what do we do? She asked. Logan looked at her, gaze steady. We stop reacting. We take it from him. That evening, Eden sat at the edge of the girl's bed, brushing Chloe's hair as she drifted off. Sophie had already fallen asleep mid-sentence, curled like a kitten in the blankets. But Eden's body was still humming with tension. She walked downstairs and found Logan in the office, at the desk, shirt sleeves rolled up, his laptop open, phone to his ear. Yes, I want round-the-clock surveillance, plainclothes at the school, unmarked vehicles stationed outside the neighborhood, no slip-ups. He glanced up as Eden entered. Isla, give me 5, he said, then hung up. Everything's changing, Eden said quietly. Yes, Logan replied. It is. She crossed to the desk. I don't want the girls to be scared. They won't be, he said. Not if we handle this right. Eden sat across from him. Do we press charges? File something official? If we file and Calder disappears, we lose him again. But if we bait him, Logan paused, we could end it. You want to trap him. I want to expose him. He's not just a threat to you anymore, Eden. He's a threat to our daughters. The use of our didn't go unnoticed. She nodded slowly. Then we do this together. Logan reached across the desk, palm up. She placed her hand in his without hesitation. Outside, the wind picked up. Inside, their bond had shifted again. Not just 2 people falling back into love, but 2 people standing shoulder to shoulder, finally prepared to fight for what they'd almost lost. Logan had never felt rage so controlled. It simmered low under the surface, measured, sharp, cold, the kind of rage that didn't explode but calculated, moved with precision, focused only on one thing, keeping his daughters safe. And Eden, especially Eden. He paced the length of the office as Marcus spoke through the phone speaker. Calder's operating under a new identity. David C. Ransford, shell company registered offshore, untraceable funds moving through a legal front. But the good news is, he's sloppy. He showed up on school property. That's leverage. We can't arrest him for standing on a sidewalk, Logan said, voice hard. No, Marcus agreed, but we can make him sweat. And Eden, she needs to decide how deep she's willing to go. Logan ended the call and turned. Eden stood at the doorway, arms folded, her face unreadable. I heard. He nodded. We have options, but we don't have time. She stepped in slowly. So this is it? You want to go after him? I need to, he said, because I refuse to let him win. Not by fear, not by silence, and not by pushing you out of the life you deserve. She exhaled shakily. You're asking me to poke the very bear I've spent years avoiding. I'm asking you, Logan said, stepping closer, to trust me. Completely. To stop making decisions in isolation. To let me be your partner, not just in parenting. In this. He was close now, not crowding. Just there. Solid. Steady. I can't protect you if you keep protecting me from the truth. Eden looked up at him, her eyes bright. This isn't about pride, Logan. It's about survival. About not pulling you down into a darkness you never chose. I am choosing it, he said, voice low. Every day I stay, every time I open the front door to your world, I'm choosing you. But I need to know you're choosing me back. She blinked slowly. This sounds like an ultimatum. It is, he said quietly. You don't have to be ready for marriage or forever, but I need your full trust, or this doesn't work. Silence pressed between them. The air felt tight, electric. Finally, Eden stepped forward and placed both hands on his chest. Her voice, when it came, was soft, fragile, but clear. I've never trusted anyone like I trust you. He searched her face. Then tell me what you've held back. She looked away for the briefest second, then back. There was another time Calder tried to reach me, she admitted. 3 years ago, I was in Portland. Chloe had the flu. Sophie was sleeping in the car after a grocery run. I found a note tucked into the back seat. Still watching. Logan's jaw flexed. I filed a police report under an alias. Moved again within 48 hours. Changed schools. Burned everything. You never told anyone? He asked. I couldn't risk exposure, and I didn't want the girls to see me fall apart. Logan took her hand. That ends now. She looked up. I'm all in, she whispered, but I need you to promise me something too. Anything. If this gets dangerous, really dangerous, you walk away with them, you keep them safe, even if it means leaving me behind. No, he said immediately. Logan, no, he repeated firmer. We don't split again, we face it, together. His voice cracked with the weight of it, and something in Eden unraveled. She leaned into him, arms around his neck, a cheek against his chest. His arms came around her like a shield, like he'd been made to hold this one woman in this one moment. They stood like that, in the dim hush of the house, as the future bent quietly toward them. Later that night, Eden stood in the girls' room, tucking Sophie's leg back under the blanket, brushing a kiss over Chloe's cheek, and she realized something. The life she'd built alone was strong, but the one they were building now was finally stronger. The park was quiet. It was the kind of late afternoon where the light felt soft, drowsy, where everything slowed, except Eden's heart. Because the swing was empty, and Sophie was gone. Chloe stood frozen beside the slide, her bunny in one hand, the other pointing at the vacant swing, as if the very sight had taken her words. Eden's breath disappeared. Just 10 seconds ago, Sophie had been there, laughing, calling for another push. Eden had turned for one moment, and now she was gone. Chloe, Eden said, rushing to her. Where did she go? Did she say anything? Chloe's eyes were wide, confused. I didn't see. Eden's voice dropped, calm but shaking. Stay right here. Do not move. She turned in a slow, scanning circle. No sign of Sophie. No flash of her pink hoodie. No child running across the grass in play. Logan. She fumbled for her phone, nearly dropping it, and hit speed dial. He answered on the first ring. She's gone, Eden whispered. Sophie, Logan, she was just here. I turned away for 1 second. Where are you? His voice was all steel. The park, Elm and 6th. I'm 5 minutes out. Eden, listen to me. Look around. Any adults near her before? Any cars idling? I don't. She spun again. There's a van, white, just pulled out. License plate? No time, she gasped. Stay calm. You stay with Chloe. I'll find her. and then the line went dead. Logan took the turn fast, tires screeching, his jaw clenched so tight it ached. He scanned the street, his eyes sharp, calculating. 2 blocks up, a white van sat at a red light. He pulled up beside it, heart in his throat, and there she was, Sophie, in the front seat, buckled in, talking to someone through the open window. A woman, older, smiling, holding a bag of candy like bait. Logan didn't hesitate. He threw the SUV into park, leapt out, and reached the van in seconds. "Hey!" he shouted. The woman jumped back, startled, as Logan pulled the door open and scooped Sophie into his arms. "Daddy!" Sophie gasped. "She said you told her to get me." "No," he said, clutching her. "No, I didn't." The woman backed away, hands raised. I found her near the trail. She said she was lost. I was just helping." Logan didn't waste time on questions. He walked straight back to the car with his daughter in his arms, called 911, and gave a description of the woman and the van. If it was a misunderstanding, they'd sort it out, but the tightness in his gut said it wasn't. When Eden saw Logan pull into the lot with Sophie safe in his arms, she broke. Not with screaming, not with panic, with relief so total it made her knees give out. He rushed to her, knelt beside her as she pulled Sophie into her arms and held her so close it hurt. "I didn't go far," Sophie mumbled. "She said you told her." "I know, baby," Eden whispered, her voice cracking. "You did nothing wrong." Chloe wrapped herself around Eden's leg, shaking, and Logan wrapped his arms around all 3 of them. They didn't speak for a long time. Eventually, Eden looked up. Her voice was barely there. "This is what I was afraid of. I know," Logan said, "and now it's real." He nodded. "But we're still standing," she whispered. He met her eyes. "We are." She looked at her daughters, shaken but safe, then back at Logan. "I'm done waiting for the next swing to be empty. We move forward, no more half-truths, no more shadows. We take our lives back." Logan pressed his forehead to hers. "Together." She nodded. "All in." That night, the girls slept in their parents' bed, curled between them like anchors, and in the dark, Eden didn't watch the door. She didn't check the locks 3 times. She didn't wait for the past to return, because this time, when it came, they were ready. Logan didn't move. The girls lay sprawled across the bed, one foot in his ribcage, an elbow somewhere near his jaw, but he didn't care. He couldn't sleep, not because of discomfort, but because he couldn't stop watching them. The rise and fall of their breath, the tiny fingers curled in the sheets, the fact that they were here, safe, his daughters. For a long time, he didn't let himself call them that. Not out loud, not even in his mind. The word felt too heavy, too sacred. But now it felt right. Not just the man who had helped create them, but the one who stayed, showed up, protected, loved. Across the bed, Eden stirred. Her eyes opened, adjusting to the dark. She gave him a quiet smile. "They kick," she whispered. He smiled back. "I noticed." She shifted closer, resting her head on his shoulder, careful not to disturb the girls. "I used to wonder what this would look like," she said softly. "You with them. All of us." "Does it look like you hoped?" "No," she said. "It's better." His throat tightened. "I don't know when it happened," he said, voice low. "The shift. One minute I was still this outsider, trying not to say the wrong thing. And now, you're just their dad," Eden said. "No trying. No proving." "I missed so much. You're here for everything that matters now." They lay there in the stillness, the quiet between them full of something sacred. Logan reached out and gently brushed a strand of hair from Chloe's forehead. She murmured in her sleep, then settled. "They trust me," he said, more to himself than to her, "because you earned it." Eden sat up slightly, watching him. "You think being a father means knowing all the answers," she said. "But it's not. It's showing up, listening, loving them even when you're terrified. You're doing all of it, Logan." He didn't respond right away, just watched them, his daughters, his family. "I love them so much it scares me," he said finally. "Good," Eden said. "It's supposed to." She leaned in and kissed his cheek, then settled beside him again. They lay like that until dawn. Later that morning, while Eden was in the shower and the girls colored in the kitchen, Logan stood at the sink rinsing dishes when Chloe wandered over, bunny in tow. She tugged at his shirt. "Daddy?" His heart skipped. He knelt. "Yeah, sweetheart?" She leaned in, whispered, "You're my favorite person." He smiled, overwhelmed. "Even when you make broccoli," she added. He laughed. "That's high praise." She kissed his cheek and ran off. And Logan stood there, one hand on the counter, the other pressed over his chest like he needed to hold everything in place. Because for the first time in his life, he didn't just feel powerful, he felt whole. The front door clicked shut behind Eden with a quiet, final kind of sound. The morning air was crisp, the sunlight pale and thin through the overcast sky. She tightened her grip on her phone as she crossed the driveway toward the black SUV waiting at the curb. Logan wasn't with her. She hadn't told him exactly where she was going, not because she didn't trust him, but because this moment wasn't his to carry. Not yet. The driver stepped out. "Ms. Monroe?" She nodded. "Just Eden is fine." He opened the door without another word. She slipped into the back seat, the interior silent except for the hum of the engine. Marcus's contact had arranged everything. A neutral location. Monitored. Quiet. No weapons. No press. Calder had agreed, curious, apparently, more than hostile. He didn't know what Eden planned to say. But Eden did. The building was tucked into the side of an industrial block near the port, one of Logan's off-grid properties, used for tech storage and private prototypes. It had been stripped down for the meeting. No desks, no files, just concrete, steel beams and a security camera in every corner. When Calder entered, he looked exactly the same and entirely different, same smug expression, same clean lines of a tailored coat, but the arrogance had been tempered. He looked leaner, tighter, like a man who had lost something he wasn't ready to admit he needed. "Well," he said, stepping forward, "if it isn't the ghost." Eden didn't flinch. "I'm not running anymore." Pity. He smiled like it was a joke only he understood. "You were very good at it." She didn't smile back. "This ends today." "I doubt that." "Try me." He took a slow lap around the room, studying the walls, the corners, the high-placed cameras. "Impressive setup. Your billionaire boyfriends, I presume." "Security isn't about money, it's about truth," she said. "And I'm done letting you live outside of it." He tilted his head, still speaking in riddles. Some things never change. Eden folded her arms. "You stole from the US government. You repurposed experimental surveillance technology. You used my work to build systems that targeted private citizens. I have the proof. I have your signature on the transfer orders." His jaw ticked. "You don't want to play that game. You already lost it," she said. He laughed once, short and humorless. "I don't think you understand what you're threatening. I have layers of protection, Eden. People who owe me. People you don't see coming." "I'm not alone anymore," she replied. "You can't gaslight me into silence." Calder stepped closer, the edge in his voice sharpening. "You were a brilliant developer. You could have had anything, but instead you torched it all to hide behind some CEO's last name and a picket fence." Eden's voice was quiet, but steel underneath. "You still think this is about fear, but it's about power, and I'm taking mine back." "You think testifying will stop me?" She didn't answer. Instead, she pulled a small recorder from her pocket and pressed a button. Calder's face shifted instantly. "You're bluffing." "Then why do you look nervous?" He started to move, but two security personnel stepped from the shadows behind a partition. "Your people?" he spat. "No," Eden said. "Mine." He turned toward the door, but the guards didn't move. "This is the part where you listen," Eden said, stepping forward. "I'm going to file a federal affidavit. It will include the data dump I recovered, the audio backup of our conversation today, and the names of every subcontractor you used while operating under Ransford Group." Calder's mask finally cracked. "You wouldn't." "I will," he sneered. "You've changed." "I became a mother," she said, "and you can't scare me anymore." He stepped back. "You'll regret this." Eden's voice was calm, clear, final. "No, you will." When she returned home, the house was warm with the smell of cinnamon and laughter. Logan looked up from the couch, Sophie curled in his lap, Chloe halfway through braiding his hair with ribbons. "Everything okay?" he asked. Eden stepped forward slowly, the adrenaline still buzzing beneath her skin. She knelt, pressed a kiss to each daughter's forehead, then sat beside Logan and let out a long breath. "It's done," she said. "He won't come near us again." Logan didn't ask for proof. He didn't press. He just reached for her hand and laced their fingers together. The girls kept playing like nothing had changed, but everything had. That night, after the girls were asleep and the house had gone still, Logan pulled Eden into the kitchen where soft music played and the world outside the window had gone dark. She leaned against him without speaking. He held her there. "How did it feel?" he asked eventually. Like breathing for the first time. He nodded. I'm proud of you. She closed her eyes. I'm proud of me too. Outside, the wind had calmed. The night was just a night. And in the heart of the home they had built, Eden finally stopped looking over her shoulder, because what was behind her could no longer reach her. Not now. Not ever again. Logan stood at the kitchen sink, sleeves rolled up, dish towel in hand. Eden watched him from the doorway. He wasn't aware of her yet. His brow was furrowed, not in stress, but in thought. The girls' breakfast dishes sat in the drying rack, their backpacks by the door, the sun just beginning to rise behind him. It was all so ordinary, and for the first time in years, Eden realized she wanted ordinary more than she'd ever wanted safety. Because for the first time, the two weren't mutually exclusive. She stepped into the room, wrapping her arms around him from behind. He stilled, then leaned back into her touch. "Morning," he murmured. "Morning," she whispered. They stayed like that for a while, the quiet between them not empty, but full. When she finally let go, Logan turned to face her. "You've been quiet since yesterday," he said. Eden nodded. "It's strange. Everything I've carried, everything I feared, it's just gone. I don't know what to do with that." "Maybe you don't have to do anything," he offered. "Maybe this is the part where we just live." She smiled, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. He saw it. "Talk to me," he said gently. "I'm not used to this," she admitted, "to being loved without pressure, without needing to earn it every second." Logan took her hand. "Then let me remind you every day until you believe it." She looked up at him, startled by how effortlessly he said it. "I don't know what to call what we're building." He took a breath, then pulled something from his back pocket, a small envelope. She blinked. "What is that?" "Something I filed yesterday," he said, placing it in her hands. Eden opened it slowly. Inside, she found legal paperwork. Guardianship, joint custody agreement, revised. Tears sprang to her eyes as she read his handwritten note at the bottom. "You've always had full custody of my heart. I just needed the paperwork to catch up." She looked up, eyes glassy. "Logan," he shrugged, voice steady. "It's not a proposal. Not yet. Just a promise that I'm not going anywhere, that I want to raise them with you, and maybe, someday, grow old beside you too." Her tears fell freely now, not from fear or grief, but from relief, from something deeper. "I want that," she whispered. "I know," he said, pulling her close, "and we'll take our time. No more rushing. No more running." She nodded against his chest. "Just staying." He kissed the top of her head. "Exactly." Later that morning, as they walked the girls to school together, Logan holding Chloe's hand, Eden guiding Sophie, they looked for all the world like a family that had never been fractured. Sophie chattered about show and tell. Chloe hummed under her breath, bunny in tow, and Logan glanced at Eden like he couldn't quite believe this was real. She caught him staring. "What?" He smiled. "I don't know. I thought I knew what love was. And now? Now I know it's this," he said, walking through the world beside the person who chose you, even after they had every reason not to. Eden squeezed his hand. "I choose you," she said, "every day." He brought her knuckles to his lips. "Then every day is already perfect." That night, while the girls slept and the house grew still, Eden stood by the window watching the stars. Logan came up behind her, wrapped his arms around her waist. "What are you thinking about?" he asked. She leaned into him. "How quiet love can be when it's real." He kissed the curve of her shoulder, and how loud it can feel when you finally stop hiding from it. She turned to face him, and somewhere in that moment, without a ring, without a date, without a single vow, they crossed a line deeper than any document could hold. They became a family, fully. Finally. The letter had arrived in an unmarked envelope, no return address, just her name, in the familiar looping handwriting she hadn't seen in nearly 6 years. Lauren. Eden sat with it in her lap, fingers running over the paper like it might dissolve. The house was quiet, Logan at the office, the girls at school. She had the morning to herself, something rare and almost unnerving. She opened the letter slowly. "Eden, if you're reading this, it means someone you trust gave you this at the right time. I didn't know if you'd ever settle long enough to receive it, or want to. I want you to know that I never judged you for running. I understood. I helped because I loved you. And if I could go back and do it again, I would. But I also want you to stop running now. You deserve to live, not just survive. I've kept the truth hidden long enough. You're safe now. And Calder, he won't get close again. I made sure of it, even if it cost me. You gave everything to protect those girls. Now let yourself be part of the life you protected. And Eden, don't keep punishing yourself. The person you left behind, she did what she had to do. But you're not her anymore. With love, always. Tears blurred the words. Lauren had been her last real friend from the life before, the one who helped her disappear when no one else understood, who burned bridges on Eden's behalf, who disappeared shortly after Calder resurfaced. She had always suspected Lauren paid a price for her loyalty, and now she knew. The letter wasn't just goodbye. It was a permission slip, a benediction. Eden folded it gently, placed it in a small box, and set it inside her nightstand drawer. Not to forget, but to honor. That afternoon, Logan returned home to find Eden sitting in the backyard, barefoot in the grass, a mug of tea in her hand, her eyes calm in a way he hadn't seen before. He walked out, kissed her cheek. "You okay?" She nodded. "Better than okay." She handed him the letter. He read it in silence. When he looked up, his jaw was tight, but his eyes were soft. "You never told me about her. She's the reason I survived. And now, she's the reason I'm choosing to live." He sat beside her, resting his palm over hers. "She'd be proud of you," he said. Eden didn't answer right away. Then, "I'm proud of me too." They sat there, the grass cool beneath them, the future unfolding quietly around them. Not with fear, but with certainty. That evening, Eden brought out a small photo from a box in her closet. One of her, Lauren, and a younger version of herself. A woman with wild hope in her eyes and no idea how far she'd be asked to bend. She placed it on the hallway shelf. Not hidden, not shamed. It was a goodbye and a thank you. Because some goodbyes aren't endings. They're doors finally allowed to close. It started with a drawer. Not a romantic gesture. Not a dramatic announcement. Just a quiet Tuesday morning, sunlight slipping across the floor, and Eden folding a few of her sweaters into the empty drawer in Logan's dresser. She did it without ceremony. No speech. No second guessing. Just the motion of her hands and the steady rhythm of her breath. And Logan, standing in the doorway with a cup of coffee, watching her like she just told him she loved him again. But louder this time. "You're moving in," he said, more statement than question. She looked over her shoulder and smiled. "I guess I am." He set the coffee down and crossed the room. "You sure? I'm done pretending this is temporary. I want a key. I want shared groceries. I want to argue about who left the toothpaste cap off." He pulled her into his arms. Spoiler alert, it's Chloe. Eden laughed against his chest. "Of course it is." They stood like that for a long moment, bodies close, hearts steady, until the front door burst open and the sound of twin voices filled the house. "We're home," Sophie shouted, "and I got a gold star for being quiet at nap time." "That's a lie," Chloe said. "She hummed through the whole thing." Logan grinned and kissed Eden's forehead. "Back to reality. Best version I've ever known," she said. That weekend, they hosted their first real dinner as a family. Nothing fancy, just grilled cheese sandwiches, fresh-cut fruit, and a living room picnic that involved more crumbs than cutlery. But Eden watched it unfold like a miracle. Chloe explained the complex social hierarchy of kindergarten. Sophie told an elaborate story about a boy who claimed to eat rocks. Logan asked thoughtful questions and feigned deep concern. Eden sat with her legs tucked under her, warm plate in her lap, and realized she didn't feel like a guest in her own life anymore. She felt like a cornerstone. After the girls were asleep, both in their own beds now, a change Eden had expected to take weeks but only took days, she found Logan in the kitchen, drying the last of the dishes. She walked up behind him, wrapped her arms around his waist. "Thank you," she said. He turned. "For what?" "For building this with me, for not rushing me, for staying when I didn't know how to ask." He cupped her face. "You never had to ask." She leaned in, kissed him softly, then more deeply. It wasn't a kiss of passion alone. It was rooted, grounded. The kind that says, "This is where I land now. This is where I stay." Later that night, curled together in bed, Eden rested her head on Logan's chest. "I've been in so many homes over the years," she whispered. "Cities, apartments, borrowed spaces, but none of them ever felt like mine. This one does?" he asked. She didn't hesitate. "It feels like ours." He pressed a kiss to her hair. Then we're home. The next morning, Eden woke to the smell of cinnamon and the sound of Sophie singing in the kitchen. She got up, padded down the hallway, and paused when she saw it. Logan flipping pancakes, Chloe standing on a step stool beside him with a bowl of blueberries, and Sophie placing napkins on the table in neat, wrinkled folds. She didn't interrupt, just stood there and let the moment imprint itself onto her soul. This wasn't survival. This wasn't temporary. This was belonging. The morning began like most others now did, with cinnamon-scented air, cartoons murmuring in the background, and one twin demanding pancakes while the other negotiated syrup strategy like a seasoned diplomat. Eden smiled as she poured coffee into her favorite mug. Her favorite mug. The realization hit quietly. She had a favorite here, not a borrowed one. Not a travel mug kept in her bag, just in case. But one that lived in this house because she did. Logan stepped behind her, his arm sliding around her waist, his mouth brushing her ear. Big day today. She leaned into him. Is it? Board vote. She turned. You didn't tell me it was today. I didn't want to distract you. Logan, this is huge. He shrugged. I already made my decision. I told them if they wanted someone who could live in the office, they could vote me out. And if they don't? He smiled. Then I stay, but on my terms. I'm not choosing between a company and the life I nearly missed. She searched his eyes. You're sure? I've never been more sure. She kissed him. It was quick, easy, familiar now, but full of something new. Freedom. That afternoon, Eden found herself in the garden. It had become her favorite place in the house, not because it was perfect, it wasn't, but because it grew from the same chaos she did. Some parts were too wild, others sparse, but it was theirs. She was kneeling to pull a stubborn weed when Logan's shadow passed over her. She looked up. He held out a folded piece of paper. The board voted. Her chest tightened. And I'm officially still CEO. He smiled. On a reduced schedule, with Isla promoted to co-exec and a 6-month trial for a new work-life balance clause I forced into the charter. Her jaw dropped. You rewrote your own job? I rewrote our future. He crouched beside her, reaching into his back pocket. She didn't realize what he was doing until she saw the box. Her breath caught. No pressure, he said softly. No rush, no timeline, just a question. He opened the box. Inside was a ring, not flashy, not oversized, simple, elegant, timeless, like them. I don't want to own your life, Eden. I just want to live it beside you. Her throat tightened. You don't have to answer today, he added. You can wait as long as you need. She stared at the ring, at him, and then quietly she said, no waiting. His breath hitched. Yes, yes, she whispered, then louder, steadier, truer. Yes to you. Yes to us. Yes to forever, however messy, however imperfect. She kissed him hard, laughing against his mouth. You thought I'd make you wait? I would have, he said, every day for the rest of my life. I know, she said, and slid the ring onto her finger. That evening, they didn't throw a party. They didn't announce it with champagne. They tucked the girls into bed, watched one fall asleep upside down and the other insist her stuffed bunny get its own pillow. Then they sat on the porch with mugs of tea, feet touching under the table, hands linked. Is it strange, Eden asked, that after everything, this feels easy? Logan looked at her. It feels earned. And she knew he was right. The wedding was private, not because they were hiding, those days were long gone, but because the noise of the world no longer mattered. It was just them, the girls, a few close friends, a simple garden, laughter, light. Sophie had dropped a handful of petals, then run down the aisle shouting, I forgot how to sprinkle. Chloe had offered up the rings with both hands and all the solemnity of a queen presenting a crown. And Eden stood barefoot in the grass, a dress soft as air, her hair down, her eyes full, not of nerves, but of certainty. Logan took her hand as the officiant spoke, but neither of them really heard the words. They'd already said everything they needed to say in the quiet moments between chapters. In the hospital parking lot, when she'd shown him the ultrasound photo and walked away. On the swings, when Sophie had called him daddy and something in him broke open. In every bedtime story, every whispered apology, every promise kept. So when the words, you may kiss your wife, echoed into the open sky, Logan didn't hesitate, and Eden didn't hold back. It wasn't a first kiss. It was a culmination, a vow sealed not by pressure, but by peace. They didn't take a honeymoon in the traditional sense. Instead, they drove. Just the four of them. Music on, windows down, stopping for pancakes in small towns and letting the girls jump on hotel beds like it was an Olympic sport. They built sandcastles in silence. They danced in a kitchen that wasn't theirs. They held hands while crossing street corners. And one night, somewhere between a sleepy coastal inn and a grocery stop for marshmallows, Logan turned to Eden in the parking lot. "You realize," he said, "we're no longer reclaiming anything." She tilted her head. "No," he said, pulling her in. "We're not claiming what's mine anymore." Her eyes sparkled. "What are we doing?" He kissed her. "Claiming what's ours."